Greetings, fellow Obsidizens of the vast Obsidian community. Welcome to another video in the Obsidian for Noobs video series, featuring tutorials, tips, and tools for new users of the Obsidian personal knowledge management software. In today's video, I'll show you step by step how to create a dashboard for your vault that updates automatically. But first, in case you're unfamiliar with the concept of a dashboard, let's quickly go over what it is. A dashboard in Obsidian provides users with a quick and easy way to access the notes and files that constitute your vault. The dashboard is simply a collection of links to your vault's notes and files, with those links presented in a logically organized structure, centrally located in a single note or canvas. Think of it as being like a table of contents or an index for your vault. Okay, with that out of the way, let me explain how this idea for an automatically updating dashboard came about. Like many disgruntled Windows users who mourn the death of Windows 10, I've been looking into the Linux operating system. As part of the learning process, I'm naturally collecting a lot of documents about Linux, and of course, being an avid Obsidian user, I created a Linux vault in which to store and organize these documents. As the vault grew in size, with many folders and many documents, I decided to create a dashboard for it. Okay, this is my Linux vault. It's not completed yet. It's still a work in progress. But you can see the folders here, some of the folders that I've created, and there are quite a few documents in many of these folders. And I expect I'll be adding a lot more to it as I continue to work with and learn Linux. And so for the sake of easy access, I decided to create a dashboard. Since I already have the documents logically organized into folders by categories, I decided to use a table for the dashboard. I figured I would let each cell of the table correspond to a folder of my vault, and I would put links to the documents contained in the folders in the corresponding cells of the table. It seemed a sensible approach, and as it progressed, I was very pleased with the result, which I'll show you now. As I just said, as you can see, each cell of the table corresponds to a folder of the vault. So I have files about backing up and restoring Linux, and this cell of the table corresponds to that folder. If I open it, you see that the files in that folder are listed here, and these are links to those files. So if I click on one of these links, it brings me to that file. I really like the way it looks, and it works well as a dashboard. But as I continued to work with it, a flaw became apparent. Whenever I added a new note or file to the vault, which I do fairly often, I had to manually update the dashboard, meaning I had to be sure to add a link to that new file in the dashboard. Likewise, whenever I deleted a note or file from the vault, I had to remember to also delete the link to it from the dashboard. It's not a lot of work to do this, but the problem was that I'm usually adding documents to the vault while I'm working on a project. So I quickly add the document and then return to the project, forgetting to update the dashboard. I quickly found myself in a situation where the dashboard did not accurately reflect the contents of the vault, which makes the dashboard pretty much useless. The solution, obviously, was that I needed a dashboard that would update itself automatically. In other words, whenever I either added a new document to the vault or deleted an existing document from the vault, I needed the dashboard to automatically adjust itself accordingly. That is, I needed the dashboard to create links to any newly added documents and to remove the links to any deleted documents. And I needed the dashboard to do this on its own without my intervention. After mulling over this problem, I eventually came up with a solution that utilizes the Bases core plugin together with Callouts. Specifically, I decided to create a Bases database for each folder, filtered for that folder's contents. Since Bases databases create links to a vault's files, and since it automatically updates itself to reflect any changes in the vault's files, I will have effectively created a dashboard that updates itself automatically. I made the decision to use callouts to contain the dashboard links instead of a table because the callouts are more aesthetically attractive, make more efficient use of space, and can be easily linked to. The result was better than I had hoped. So let me first go over the steps involved in accomplishing this, and then I'll demonstrate the process in my Linux vault. By the way, before I continue, if callouts and/or bases are new concepts to you, or if you simply need a quick refresher on them, check out my YouTube videos, Working with Callouts in Obsidian, and The Basics of Using Bases in Obsidian. These videos cover these topics in great detail. I'll put links to them in the description. Okay, here's the step-by-step process to create a dashboard that updates automatically. First, create a callout. Make the callout's title be the same as the folder's title. Remember, we're going to create a callout for each folder in our vault. And those callouts will contain links to the files in those folders. So for each folder, we want to create a callout. And naturally, we want to make the callout's title be the same as the folder's title so that we create a correspondence between the two. Once we have the callout, insert a base as the callout's content. Now remember, when you create a base in Obsidian, that initially created base contains every single file in your vault. So once we've inserted this base into the callout's content, we want to go to that base and filter it to display the target folder's files. We'll create a filter that limits the display in that base solely to the files in the folder that we're targeting. And again, to maintain consistency, we'll make the base's title be the same as the folder's title. So our callout title, our base's title, and our folder title will all be the same. This way we can keep track of what goes with what. And then simply repeat this process for each folder in your vault that you want to be in your dashboard. At the bottom here, you see an example of what this would look like. This is the first line of a callout. It contains the callout type in brackets. I'll be using the info type because I like the color of it. And then the title goes here. And then within the content of the callout, we're going to put our base, which we will filter to reflect the contents of the folder we're working on. So in this example, the idea is that I have a folder in my vault called General Guides, which I actually do, and I'll use that one when I demonstrate this. So I'm creating a callout. I'm giving the callout the title. I'm making the callout's title the same as the folder's title. And then within the content of the callout, I'm creating a base with that same name. And I'm going to filter that base so that it only shows the contents of that folder. As you can see, the process is really quite simple. Simply create a callout, put a base's database in the callout, and then filter the database to display the target folder's files. And then repeat the process for each folder that you want in your dashboard. And that's all there is to it. Let me demonstrate the process now in an actual vault. Okay, I'm back in the Linux vault. I have a node here called Dashboard, and I'm going to go about performing the process for creating the various callouts that together will constitute the dashboard. The easiest way to create a callout is use the Note's right-click menu. Right-click in the Note, select Insert, and then Callout. This is the callout type. The default is Note, but I want the info callout, so I'm going to change Note to info. I want the title of the callout to correspond to the title of the folder that I'm going to connect it with. So our first folder is Backup and Restore. And I'll make that the callout's title. Now for the contents, instead of the word contents, I'm going to insert a base's database. And the easiest way to insert a base's database is the same way we did for the callout. Use the Note's right-click menu. I right-click, I select Insert, and then New Base. Obsidian created an untitled database, which is down here. I'm going to go to that database, and right now, it contains every single file in this vault. Any initially created database contains all the files in your vault. We want to give the database a name, and I'm going to name it, as I did with the callout, I'm going to give it the same name as the folder, Backup and Restore. And then I'm going to filter the database so that it only shows the files that are in that folder, that Backup and Restore folder. So I will click on Filter. The first part, what I want to work on, is the folder. The operator is, and the folder that I want to target is Backup and Restore. Now when I click this, When I click Backup and Restore, the database is then going to apply this filter and limit the elements it shows solely to the contents of that folder. I want the folder whose name is Backup and Restore. And we have it now limited to those files. If I open it up in the File Manager, you can see there's a direct correspondence. File by file, they all match. Now, if I go back to my dashboard, we see that the database in the callout is exactly the filtered database now. In other words, it only has the files that are in that folder, Backup and Restore. To make better utilization of space and have this look nicer, I'm going to make this callout a collapsible callout by putting a hyphen right after the callout type. Now it's a collapsible callout. If I click here, it opens. I can hit any of these links, see the file. It behaves exactly as a dashboard should. And then what I do is I create callouts for every folder in this vault. So let's do one now for general guides. I'll demonstrate the process again. First, insert a callout. And again, I'm going to change it to info. You can leave it as note or make it any of the, I think there are 13 or 14 built-in callout types in Obsidian. You can make it any one you want. The title is going to be the title of the folder I'm working on now, which is General Guides. And then for the contents, I'm going to insert a new base. I'm going to go to that base in my File Manager, open it. I'm going to give it the same name as the folder, in this case, General Guides. And again, right now, it contains every single file in this vault. I'm going to filter it by saying, only show me the folder that is called General Guides. And now it limits the display solely to the files contained in that folder. And to check again, you can see the correspondence. 10 things to do, 14 things to do, a beginner's guide, familiarizing yourself. All the files in that folder now appear in this callout. Now appear in this database. If I go back to the dashboard, we see that the callout corresponds to the filtered database that we just created. And again, let me make this collapsible. Let me do one more so that I can demonstrate something else here. I want to do one that only has a couple of files in it. The Installing Linux Mint folder. So again, insert a callout. I'm changing the type to info. The title I'm going to change to the folder's title. In this case, Installing Linux Mint. And for the contents, I'm going to insert a new base. I'm going to open that base. I'm going to change its title to the folder's title, Installing Linux Mint. And I'm going to filter it for that folder. And then we have the two files that are in the Installing Linux Mint folder. Now, let me create a new note over here in the File Manager, and let me call it New Linux install doc. I will make believe this is another document I have that has information about installing Linux Mint. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that note in the installing Linux Mint folder. Now I have 3 files in that folder. If I go to my dashboard, the dashboard has automatically updated and put a link to that file in its database. Let me once again make this collapsible. For some reason, I keep forgetting to do that. So that's the beauty of this. If I had used a table for this database, as I showed you the way I first started, when I add a new document to the folder, the table dashboard will not update automatically. I would have to go into that table and manually add the link to that new note. And as I said, I kept forgetting to do that. But with this database callout combo, if I create a new note and put it in a folder, that callout automatically shows a link to that note. Likewise, if I delete that note from the folder in the file manager, we will see that, again, this will automatically update and it will remove the link to the note. And there it is. I'm back to 2 files. So that's really all there is to the process. Create a note to serve as your dashboard. Right-click in the note. Select Insert Callout. Make it of whatever type callout you want. Change the title to the title of the folder you're relating it to. For the contents, insert a new base. Go to that base. Give that base the title of the folder you're working on. Then filter that base to only display the contents of the folder that the callout is representing. Create a callout, insert a database, filter the database for the folder. And then simply repeat that process for every folder that you want represented in your dashboard. So there you have it, how to create a dashboard that updates automatically. Just create it and then forget it. No need to maintain it. It's a simple and easy process, and it's a really nice use of bases and callouts. You gotta love bases and callouts. Obsidian just keeps getting better and better and better. Okay, fellow Obsidizens, that's all I have for now. I'll see you in the next video. Happy note-taking and Happy New Year.